Hello, this is Mike Burek, your host and producer of Knanitsia, The Well, a podcast series about topics of interest to Ukrainians around the world. Today is Tuesday, April 1st, 2025. This episode is produced for The Ukrainian Weekly, a newspaper published in English for the global Ukrainian community since 1933. Our guest for this episode is Iryna Mazur, who is a U.S. immigration attorney and Honorary Consul of Ukraine to Philadelphia. Our topic today will be what is happening with Ukrainian war refugees in the U.S. Welcome, Iryna. How are you?
Michael, thank you. Вітання всім.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Before we begin talking about Ukrainian war refugees, can you give us a bit of information about your educational and professional background?
Yes, I was born in Lviv, Ukraine. I graduated law school there and was working as a lawyer. And then about 25 years ago, I moved to the United States, went to Temple Law School, got my license. I am admitted to practice law in Pennsylvania, but it happened that I focused on the immigration law. It's a federal law, and this is my specialty.
And since you were born in Lviv, Ukraine, why did you come to the U.S.?
It's interesting. Initially, first time I came to the United States was to participate in a special program for Ukrainian lawyers and judges. So it was more than 25 years ago. There was a group of us, 30 lawyers and judges, and we came here as exchange professionals under exchange program. And then 2 years later, I got a job offer and I came back and then I stayed. So it was a long time ago.
Very interesting. So let's talk a little bit about the Ukrainian war refugees who are in the United States right now. What is the Uniting for Ukraine program, U4U, that was established in the U.S. for war refugees in April of 2022? And secondly, what is the Temporary Protected Status program and how does it work?
Before we would launch into the explanation about those two programs, I wanted to highlight that usually when people refer to Ukrainians who had to flee the war as refugees, those Ukrainians did not actually have this particular status of refugee. Why? I will explain now. So when the war began, the full-scale invasion began, a lot of people wanted to escape the war. So obviously, U.S. consulates abroad, they were not able to handle so many visas, so people could travel to the United States. And also those travel visas or visitor visas, they wouldn't give any kind of status that would allow those people to stay here longer than 6 months and have employment authorization. That was extremely important. And then the U.S. government at that time created a special program called Uniting for Ukraine. Basically, under this program, Ukrainians who were forced to leave Ukraine as a result of the invasion, they were able to come to the United States without a visa, under a special permission to enter the United States without a visa and stay here for 2 years, and they had a right to be lawfully employed. Later, under the same program, their status called parolee. Parole, it means temporary permission. The status was extended for another 2 years. Simultaneously to this program, there was a lot of people already in the United States, a lot of Ukrainians who simply had to go back to Ukraine, but they were not able to do so. So for them, another mechanism of protection was invoked. It's called TPS, Temporary Protective Status. And what it means that those people who were in the United States physically in April of 2020, I believe, they were able to apply for TPS and also for employment authorization. So basically, those two programs existed for those ones who had to flee Ukraine and for those ones who already were in the United States and were not able to go back. Then the TPS was extended a couple times because the period of temporary protective status can last only 1.5 years. And those ones who came under the U4U or under different kind of humanitarian paroles, for example, to the southern border, they were able to extend their statuses. And people were able to stay here and be lawfully employed. The problem is that U4U is not a permanent program. It's a temporary program of protection. And that raises a lot of questions right now, because as of today, we have a little bit of problem, which probably will take us to another question. So I kind of jump ahead. So I will let you ask me the question and then I will answer.
Yeah, let's circle back for a minute. How many of these Ukrainians are in the U.S. between the U4U program and the TPS?
That's hard to estimate because we have two categories of people. So according to the data provided by the US government, we have about 250,000 Ukrainians who entered the United States under the U4U program. But don't forget, there are a lot of Ukrainians who at the beginning of the invasion came to the southern border, they presented themselves and they were able to enter the United States under the similar parole. So it wasn't U4U, but it was also parole program, means temporary permission to stay in the United States without a visa. Then you have to also calculate those people who were already in the United States and who were able to apply for TPS. So all those different categories of Ukrainians who were trapped in their future plans because of the war, I would estimate we have about like 500,000 people in the United States.
And are they able to work here? I think you mentioned that they can. And do they receive any other government benefits?
Yes, Ukrainians who came under U4U, under parole program, and who are staying here under TPS, they are able to apply for employment authorization. And obviously they're able to work. Those ones who came under U4U program, in their parole status, they were equalized to somebody who has official refugee status, meaning that they were able to apply and receive particular social benefits. For example, some assistance, some medical care. So not every category of Ukrainian got that kind of social protection, but those ones who came under U4U, most of them, they were able to benefit from those kind of benefits.
And can you give us sort of a geographic overview of where Ukrainians are in the U.S. under these programs? And what is a typical demographic?
Well, it's very easy to guess because people tend to go where there's already established Ukrainian community. There is already established infrastructure because they actually, a lot of them, they're not fluent in English. So a lot of them will look for a job or will look for some kind of assistance. So they rely on the resources of the community. So obviously, naturally, the areas of New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Chicago, Illinois, Miami, California, they have huge Ukrainian community, already established infrastructure of Ukrainian centers, community centers, churches, community organizations who provided enormous support for the newcomers. So obviously people tend to settle in the community, but we do know that Ukrainians settled also in the areas where I didn't even know Ukrainian community exists. Why? Because a lot of Americans were generous enough in order to be sponsors for Ukrainians under U4U program, and they provided extensive help and support for those Ukrainians. And that's why we have Ukrainian community throughout the United States in the places that I would never actually even imagine.
You know, for example, Idaho. I recently read a story about some family there.
Yes.
Now, are these families primarily a mother and children? Because I understand many of the men are still back in Ukraine fighting the war.
Yes, absolutely. But some men are here because they were lawfully able to leave Ukraine. For example, somebody who has handicap immediate member of their family, or who are fathers of 3 or more minor children. So they lawfully can actually leave Ukraine, and they came here. Well, obviously, as you mentioned, predominantly I would encounter women with children. This is the most vulnerable population of Ukrainians who had to flee the war. And I didn't mention, but in addition to me being an immigration attorney. I'm also Honorary Consul of Ukraine. Honorary, it means that I'm not an officially career diplomat. I'm officially recognized diplomat, but I work on volunteer basis. And in my work, I communicate with a lot of Ukrainians, with a lot of social, different kind of groups. And I would say that the biggest challenge for us, as for the community, was to help single mothers with minor children, because there was an issue where a mother had to go to work, but she couldn't leave a child. There was a child alone, so she couldn't actually have resources to pay for a babysitter. Or during the summertime, children were not able to join any kind of summer camps because mothers simply had financial troubles to pay for it, or even to drive the child to the summer camp. So that was a big issue during the first and second year. And you will never guess, but the biggest demand, the biggest question that we had to resolve, the biggest matter, it was English as a second language. We had such a demand because people wanted to be integrated into American society. They wanted to make sure that they would be able to find a job. They will not be a burden on the society. So from kids to adults, that was the biggest demand that we had. And we had tremendous cooperation and support from local universities who organized ESL classes. We had classes at the Ukrainian Center. So I would say that that was something very positive, because I thought that's very nice for Ukrainians who are coming to the United States. They wanted to be part of this American society.
So on January 27th of this year, the U.S. government suspended the U4U program. How is this affecting those Ukrainians who are already here under that program? And do you think at some point there might be deportations of these Ukrainians?
That suspension caused a lot of fear in our community, but I just want to provide you some background. It wasn't only the U4U that was suspended. The current government suspended all of the parole programs that were implemented after the U4U for the nationals and citizens of other countries. And recently, the government already made their position with regards to citizens of four other countries, and their program was terminated. The state of the U4U today goes as the following. The new applications, they are not, you cannot submit the new application for U4U, but the applications for re-parole, you can submit. It means that you can renew the re-parole. The problem is that there was additional governmental action into temporary pausing the review of all of the applications filed by paroles. So people are able to submit for re-parole, but their documents are being basically on pause right now. That also goes to all of the documents filed under the TPS program, employment authorization, any other benefits. So if you are parolee under any kind of category, and if you filed some kind of documents, currently those documents are on hold, and we are expecting that the government will make their decision soon, and they will start to process the documents. Because besides being in a very, I would say, troubled emotional state, Ukrainians need to be lawfully employed. So they're worried if their documents are on hold or on pause, and their request for a re-parole or renewal of their TPS status or request for renewal of employment authorization are not reviewed. They don't want to violate any immigration laws, and they're extremely anxious about it. So I truly hope that this matter will be resolved soon. The current TPS period will expire in April 19th, 2025. And here we have additional problem. Only those people who arrived to the United States before August 16, 2023 were able to apply for renewal of their status. However, those ones who came after August 16, 2023, they are not able to apply for TPS status. Why? Because the former administration implemented the renewal of the TPS but they never actually established a new date. It's called new designation date. So meaning that those ones who came later, they are not eligible to apply for TPS. This is a big problem for us because if people won't be able to be in status and be lawfully employed, they won't be able to remain in the United States. But the problem is they have nowhere to go. A lot of them, they cannot come back to Ukraine because their houses are destroyed. The areas, especially in the eastern Ukraine and southern Ukraine, they're under the Russian occupation. It's not safe because, as you can see, Ukrainian cities throughout the entire territory of Ukraine, they're being bombed daily. The atrocities committed by the Russian army is horrible. It's a clear genocide by Russia. What's going on in Ukraine? It's not just some military conflict, it's a genocidal action in our modern history. And people have nowhere to go. So they're waiting anxiously for the decision of US government to extend those statuses so they would be able to renew their paroles, TPS applications, file their TPS applications. And the current state creates a lot of anxiety with people who already went through so much.
Iryna, we're just about out of time, but I did want to ask you a final question, and you might have already answered this. What percentage of the people you're working with hope to return to Ukraine?
It's a difficult question to answer because we have to focus on different groups of people, on different perspectives. Because if somebody came here with children and stay here already for 2, 3, 4 years, then their children already got used to the life here, and people just want to have the best for their children. And moreover, they want to have a stability. So their children would never have to go to bomb shelters again. They would never have to hear the sign of the sirens. But there are a lot of Ukrainians who actually, younger generation, who want to come back. They love Ukraine and they want to come back to rebuild the country. And indeed, a lot of Ukrainians came back. Interesting fact that a lot of Ukrainians who were in the United States as naturalized citizens or lawful permanent residents with green cards, they actually went to Ukraine and they joined the Ukrainian armed forces to defend Ukraine. A lot of volunteers, they went to Ukraine. So we cannot generalize people because everybody has different intentions. But I'm absolutely sure that it's absolutely difficult to put new roots in a new place. And people, they tend to have families, they have memories, they want to live in peace. And a lot of Ukrainians will be back as soon as Ukraine will have a peace.
Iryna, thank you so much for joining us today on Krynytsia.
Дякую вам. Thank you.
Proszę дуже. I have been speaking with Iryna Mazur, U.S. Immigration Attorney and Honorary Consul of Ukraine to Philadelphia. This episode has been produced for The Ukrainian Weekly, a newspaper published in English for the global Ukrainian community since 1933. I'm Mike Burek, your host and producer of Krynytsia. Until next time, that's all for now.